season, a Ravens 13-7 victory over the Buffalo Bills. We have been discussing the offense, the defense, the special teams, the kicking game, the Cleveland Browns, and Luke Jones now joins me to discuss the rest of the National Football League. And, of course, always exciting week one, right? I mean, it's you never really know what to expect, but there were several games that, were tilted in one direction. At San Diego game and the comeback there and the injury situation there. Jack Del Rio's team came back and won a game late. Marvin kind of held on. At the end of the Seattle-Miami game was exciting. Obviously, the Cowboys had a chance. It was a great, great weekend. That Detroit-Indianapolis game was also a Lulu.
Yeah, I mean, it's you never know exactly what to expect. I mean, we all sit here and talk about this like we know like we know what's going to happen, and none of us do. And we make predictions, and some of them look okay, and others look terrible, and that's why they play the games. And when you get to week one, as much as you shouldn't draw overwhelming conclusions on week one, because how many times have we seen teams go out there and they pull off an upset, or a heavy favorite looks really, really bad, and you start the doom and gloom, and then things kind of right themselves in week two. But it's just fun because there's the unknown. I mean, look at Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. I mean, he's the guy. Everyone talked about Jared Goff, and people said Wentz was, probably need to sit a year, and kind of reminded me a lot of Joe Flacco back in 2008 in terms of no one expected him to play right away, and circumstances change, and suddenly he's out there playing week one of his rookie season
and winning.
Yeah, gets a win, and it's the Cleveland Browns, sure, but those are the kind of stories that are neat. You see,
he's used to North Dakota competition.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, it's just it's something that, week one, there's always that feeling of, you pull the curtain back and you kind of see what you have. And, you'll see some things that are surprising. You'll see some teams that you thought were going to be really good, and you kind of take a step back and say, I mean, look at Seattle playing at home against the Miami Dolphins with a new coach, and they were bad last year, and the Dolphins gave them everything they could possibly handle before Seattle pulls it out late. So, all kinds of craziness. I mean, some upsets. Oakland with a 2-point conversion to win a game. I mean, you just you don't see that kind of stuff very often. So, really, really entertaining slate of games. And just certainly exciting to kick off a new football season.
From our perspective, the Cincinnati win over the Jets by the skin of their teeth, and obviously the Ravens beating up on Buffalo. I talked to some of the Buffalo guys. One of those teams could be 0-2 on Friday morning, either Rex or Rex's former team.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about the challenge of a Thursday night game, and then when you look at the urgency heading into that one with the Jets and Buffalo, and think about it. These AFC East teams are thinking they need to make some hay right now. I mean, you have the Patriots without Tom Brady for the first 4 weeks, and I mean, it's just something where they know they want to start fast because it's not going to get any easier, regardless of how whatever New England's record winds up being.
Yeah, everybody wanted Garoppolo to stink. He certainly didn't stink Sunday night.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's a case where one of those teams is going to be 0-2, and I mean, in the case of the Jets. Look, we know Cincinnati's a good team, even if they lost some players in free agency and dealing with some injuries. But to lose that game at home, that's disappointing for a Jets team that has some expectations this year. So that's going to be an interesting one. But I mean, it's just it's so funny. I always think that at the AFC East. You always wonder, are things going to be different this year? Then you see what happens to those non-Patriots teams in week one, and you kind of just say, well, Brady or not for the first 4 weeks, I'm guessing New England's still going to run away with that division before it's all said and done. So, but that Thursday night game, it's a little bit easier to endure it, I think, earlier in the season. But still not easy preparing for a short week, especially when you have to turn the page quickly after a loss.
And I think the part for me with the Jets losing and the way they lost is just how well Cincinnati played to go on the road, win a game like that, win by a close margin. But, Dalton, 366 yards, and obviously A.J. Green's like on a different planet. I mean, I know we had Megatron and we had, Johnson down in Houston. We had some great receivers at various points. If he's not the best, he's in the conversation right now, right?
Oh, I mean, he's absolutely a top 5 receiver in this league. I mean, the only thing that's held him back at times has been some health issues that he's had. But beats Darrelle Revis, and I know Revis was looking for safety help and to pass him on, but still you could see he was a step behind A.J. Green. And, I mean, even Andy Dalton, I know it's such a thing around here to just make fun of the Bengals. And look, they've lost in the playoffs in the first round the last 5 years in a row. I get that. That will continue to be the narrative if they make it to the playoffs for a 6th straight season. But, Andy Dalton quietly had a really nice season last year. And if they don't lose him, who knows what potentially happens, even though, McCarron did a respectable job. But, that's a big win for the Bengals. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's a tough start to the season from their standpoint, from their schedule. So to come away with a win on the road against a Jets team that has playoff aspirations, at least, maybe not as a division winner, but certainly as a wild card. So a nice win for them. And again, you flip the script. Jets and Bills pretty desperate going into week 2, and we saw this last year with the Ravens. You lose that week, you lose your opener, and then week 2, I mean, you do not want to start 0-2. I mean, things can spiral out of control pretty darn quickly.
Well, as much as we, don't feel like we're not doing heel clicks about the way the Ravens played on Sunday, I like 1-0 and going to Cleveland a lot better than virtually any other outcome we could have at this point. I mean, it feels to be a good time to get this offense together. And meanwhile, Lucas, the Orioles are going to keep us up late night every night this week and every night for the next 3 weeks. We got one hell of a pennant race underway here. And as I've talked about with some folks from Detroit earlier in the week and also Boston, man, we got 10 teams in here now fighting for 5 places. Really, we got 8 teams fighting for 3 places. Be a lot of feelings hurt, but boy, the Yankees, Kansas City, Seattle, Houston, they're all hanging around, man.
They are. And give the Orioles a heck of a lot of credit for the weekend. I mean, as much as we've beaten them up about their inability to play well on the road, and let's face it, I mean, it's we talked about it before the start of this current road trip that they'd only had one winning road trip all season, and it was a 2-game, not even a real road trip, just a 2-game series in Minnesota that they were able to sweep. They take 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay. You expect that. I mean, that should be the bare minimum as far as where this team stands right now and trying to make it to the postseason. But you go to Detroit and you lose a tough one on Friday night. Brad Brock gives up the home run to Martinez in the 8th inning, and you're kind of saying, well, you're hating how you set the tone for the rest of the weekend, and instead, Ubaldo Jimenez goes out there and gives you another quality start on Saturday. Clearly, the bats helped them out big time. They hit the long ball. Wieters hits a couple home runs, and they win going away on Saturday. And Sunday, you don't know what you're going to get from Chris Tillman. I mean, we saw what happened with Jordan Zimmerman on Saturday night for the Tigers coming off the DL. I mean, he was woeful.
And looks like he's about to go back on the DL, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell he wasn't right. So with Tillman, you didn't know. You were hoping it wasn't going to be a repeat of what happened in that Houston series when they pushed him back, and he clearly wasn't right. I know he struggled to locate his pitches in the first inning on Sunday. Admittedly, I did not see the game because I was covering the Ravens in the press box at the stadium. But settled in, gave them 6 solid innings, certainly pitched well enough to put his team in position to take a series, and they were able to do that because, of all the Orioles home run hitters, why wouldn't Michael Bourne hit a 2-run shot in the 3rd inning? I mean, he's in Baltimore now. He knows the drill. I kind of
forgot he was on the team, but I did remember seeing him in the game Saturday.
Well, he knows the drill. You hit home runs if you're an Oriole. So it was good to see that. And, hey, I mean, this team beat Justin Verlander, who has pitched really, really well this season. I mean, as much as Verlander had almost become a forgotten guy. I mean, Scherzer had the great year for them, and we'd seen Verlander the last couple of years have some injuries and not look like the same guy. Even after Sunday's loss, he has a ERA of 3.33. He's been really, really good. 14-game winner, and the Orioles did just enough against him. It was really good to see that. Bullpen does their job. Got a little hairy there with Britton putting a couple guys on base, but
at one point he's going to blow one, man. At one point it's going to happen.
You would think. I mean, 41 for 41. It's just been and to be totally honest with you, we haven't talked enough about Zach Britton this year. He's been that good. I mean, we just it's funny. It struck me on Sunday because in our conversation about how the Ravens have played, we talked about how Justin Tucker hit a couple field goals, Buffalo missed one, and we talked about how you take that for granted. And for whatever reason, I just thought of Zach Britton because he's just been terrific. A 0.63 ERA. It's not supposed to be that easy, and maybe he will blow one here at some point. You hope it's not one that decides anything for the Orioles in a negative manner, but he's just been so incredible. And Cy Young talk. I don't know about that. I'm very much lukewarm to the idea of giving a reliever the Cy Young award.
Well, some people are even talking MVP.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
that's Rex Barney talk for me. That smacks of homerism. I mean, he's having a hell of a year.
Well, I mean, in fairness, there lots of non-Orioles, lots of non-local media have talked about Zach Britton winning not the MVP. I think that's preposterous, but the Cy Young, because there hasn't been that special elite year from a starting pitcher.
Yeah, tell me that about Porcello. He's about to win his 21st game this week.
Well, but what I'm saying is you haven't seen a guy that has a 1.9 ERA. One of these special years like Felix Hernandez a few years back. Those types of situations.
Well, I brought up the 1990 Eckersley year with Allen earlier, and we threw it around. And I mean, and great numbers are great numbers. I mean, but it helps a lot if they get into the playoffs.
Oh, it does. There's no question about that. But I'm anti giving the Cy Young award to a relief pitcher because, even in this day and age, there might not be pitchers that throw more than 230 innings, and that's on the very high end in this modern age of baseball. But, 230 innings is a far different animal than a reliever pitching lights out for 60 or 65 innings. It's different. But that said, take nothing away from what Zach Britton has done, and this team would not be in the position it's in right now, where they're still right there for the division going into this big series at Fenway Park, and a couple game lead in the wild card race now, which was good to see. But nice weekend for the Orioles, and took care of business on the road. They beat a quality team on the road. And that's what we've been asking them to do. So we'll see if they can continue that to finish off this road trip on a high note against the Red Sox.
He is Luke Jones. He can be reached, Luke, at WNST.net. We will be tweeting about all things Orioles. And, how about this Red Sox matchup here next couple days? I mean, 7 games left with the Red Sox. You'll see them all next week as well, Monday through Thursday at Camden Yards. They're either going to back themselves out of this thing or run themselves into this thing because it's kind of on them. I mean, they're not having the scoreboard watched so much. The only scoreboard that really matters is the one that they're looking at tonight, tomorrow and Wednesday up in Boston. Yeah,
scoreboard watching is for everyone else. I mean, if you're a team worth your salt, you're taking care of business and you're winning the games enough games. You've got to take series, and you look at what Boston did. They took 2 out of 3. At Rogers Center, a really impressive feat for them. It's funny, though, as much as we've talked about the Orioles being so bad on the road this year relative to their overall success, they played well at Fenway. They've won series at Fenway. So we'll see if they can do it again. But this is definitely a Red Sox team that's playing really, really good baseball right now. So it's not going to be easy, but they're in a position right now, the Orioles, 2 games out from the Red Sox for first place. So a sweep would be asking a lot, but I think the goal has to be to take 2 out of 3 and do that. Your game out of first place as you go home for your last long homestand of the season. So Orioles can finish up this road trip in the way that they envisioned it to be, the way they hoped it to be, by winning another series at Fenway, where it was earlier in the season. Acknowledge that, but they've played quite well at Fenway Park against that tough, just a really tough Red Sox lineup who we know they score a ton of runs.
Yankees going to stay in this thing, man? I mean, it's kind of crazy what they've done.
The easy answer would be to say no, because you just look at how young they are, and you saw how they played for. This is a team that 5 weeks ago threw in the towel. They traded they traded guys.
It's
Alex
very
Rodriguez
Costanza, right?
retires.
We're going to throw in the towel. Let's throw in the towel, George. And the next thing you know, they start winning, right?
But is it not a great lesson to teams to not be afraid of that? You have the Yankees. And look, it helped that they had a lot of young players that they acquired and some other young ones who were ready to come up. There's no question about that. You look at what Sanchez has done behind the plate for them and at bat. That's as good as any deadline acquisition you can make as a buyer. So, it's been some good timing. They've had some guys play over their heads a little bit, and they're going to go through some struggles, whether it's the final 3 weeks here or whether it's next season where they're going to be a popular pick as a team.
And Sanchez might be one of those guys playing over his head. I don't know. But if he's not playing over his head, he's going to hit 65 home runs at bat 350 next year, right?
Yeah. So I'd say he's playing over his head a little bit. Right. But, who knows? But another team who the Orioles just got finished playing, Detroit sold last year. So it's a great lesson to teams to have some forwards, have some foresight in moves that you're making. Yes, I'm not saying to shy away from being a buyer, but sometimes the best moves you can make are the ones either you don't make or are the ones you're making with the future in mind, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised. How about a move that the Orioles didn't make? Ubaldo Jimenez for Melvin Upton Jr. Ubaldo has helped save them over the last couple of weeks. He's been their second best starting pitcher.
Yeah, Upton can't pitch. I know that much.
Yeah, so it really is incredible how some of those things work out. If you're going to ask me yes or no on the Yankees, I'll say no. But I wouldn't have guessed that they would have played nearly as well as they have over the last 5 weeks. So it's been a fun story for everyone but the teams that are in contention, like the Orioles right now, where you have the Yankees continuing to nip at their heels. And it's been, I think as an Orioles fan, probably a very sobering observation that the Yankees are doing this now when they have a bunch of young players that are still in the pipeline. And, they're going to have a whole lot of money to spend over the next couple of years, so there's not going to be a down period, so to speak, for the Yankees. Yeah, they might not win 100 games the next year or so, but that they're going to be a team that's right there in the mix along with everyone else. And I think 5 weeks ago, people might have thought you might get another year where the Yankees are down, but it's definitely looking like that's not going to be the case.
Are you buying Orioles stock right now still? These next couple of days will tell a lot if they go into a shell up in Fenway, but if they come out swinging and win 2 of these somehow, this really puts them in an incredible position. But they have a tougher schedule. I looked at Detroit's schedule where they're playing a bunch of Minnesotas and whatnot. I would think Toronto, Boston, and the Orioles all kind of have to knuckle up against each other, which is going to create a little bit more friction than some of these other wild card teams that have lesser schedules.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be interesting to see if one of these teams, talking Orioles, Red Sox, or Toronto, can find to go nuts. And I'm not talking, winning 6 out of 10 or winning 7 out of 10. Red Sox are 7-3 in their last 10. Orioles won 6 of their last 10. I'm talking, is there a team that can pull off 9 of 10? Is there a team that can win 11 of 12 and really put some distance? Because if not, I kind of see those 3 teams kind of staying where they are. And, I hear what you say about Detroit, and certainly their schedule looks more favorable. But, the Tigers, I give them credit. They got themselves back in the race. But, that's a team that has been very mediocre for large stretches of this season. Houston, you could kind of say the same thing. The Astros went through that stretch from late May through, about the end of July, where it looked like they were going to really challenge the Rangers, and then they just they really fell off. And they're still in the wild card race. They are, but I don't know. I don't know if I've seen enough from the Tigers, the Astros, or I guess you keep the Mariners and the Yankees in that mix. They're all still within striking distance, but I don't know if any of those teams I have enough confidence in them to overtake these teams in the East. So. A long answer for your question. I like the Orioles still, and I
like him as long as his pitching's holding up like this, man.
Yeah. And Tillman's back. I think the big key is going to be how he feels on Monday and Tuesday. How does he feel the day or two after that start? If he feels okay, then you can kind of put the little check mark and say, all right, well, they have Chris Tillman back. Good. O'Day still going to have is going to throw, and they might have him activated by the end of the week. That would be huge for them because we've seen them have their issues bridging the gap to Britain. Having a healthy Darren O'Day for the final 2 weeks and hopefully into October would be a huge difference maker for the Orioles in that bullpen. But I don't know if I'd say I'd love the Orioles to win the division, but the way they stand right now, and kind of easy to say that when they have a 2-game lead after a big series in Detroit, but I like their chances to at least hold on to one of these wild card spots. And the wild card game, it's a coin flip largely, so we'll see how it plays out. But I still like these teams in the East a little bit better than these other teams, even with taking the schedule into account.
He is Luke Jones, Luke at WNST.net. He'll be staying up with the Orioles all week and on the backfields in Owings Mills with the Ravens, as will I. We will be swabbing Eric Weddle for the Bone Marrow Registry up in Hartford County next week. I'll have full details on our website later on this week. We're also going to get Alex Lewis amongst some others out for some swabbings for There Goes My Hero and the Bone Marrow Registry. You can find me anytime, anywhere in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault. For anything you miss, you can also download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. Morning newspaper, 7 a.m. It finds your email inbox. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in shape there. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home, getting you ready for the Orioles. We're watching from Fenway Park. And we're getting ready for the Ravens trip out to the land of Cleve this weekend to take on the woeful Cleveland Browns. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.